Hey everybody, my name is Brandon. Welcome back to Cinefessions, where we talk all things media. It is a Tuesday in October, which means I will be reviewing a new release from last week. This time, it's not a 4K review, rather a Blu-ray review of the 2023 version of The Boogeyman. So cannot wait to talk about my thoughts on this one. Before we get into all that though, if you have a quick second, go ahead and hit that like button down below. That engagement really does help me out. But with that said, let's not waste any time at all. Let's dive right into my review of The Boogeyman. So I'll stick with tradition here, even though there is virtually nothing to see on this one, but I'll do a quick unboxing. So unfortunately, there's not even a slipcover with this release, which is so disappointing, but leave it to Disney. Anyway, opening it up, that's the other thing. This is like genuinely the most difficult Blu-ray case I've ever had to open. Like I'm trying. Wow. Like that is absurd. I have no idea why it's so hard to open. Anyway, inside you have the digital code, which of course I've taken out and you will find somewhere in this video today. And then the Blu-ray disc itself. So no DVD on this one and no art on the Blu-ray disc. So it's as simple as it comes. The only thing noteworthy about it is how difficult it is to open. Let me know if yours is the same. But anyway, just wanted to give you a quick unboxing of this one. All right, so The Boogeyman, of course, is based on the Stephen King short story, which I realized earlier that I've never read that short story. I absolutely need to correct that, though. I'm fairly certain I own it in one of the collections. I think it's on Night Shift, but don't quote me on that. But I gotta read that just to see how it compares. But anyway, so I'll be looking at this movie without that prior knowledge, just the movie itself. With The Boogeyman here, we are following this family of three. There is the father and then his two daughters. One of them is about 16, 17 in high school, and the younger daughter is about 9-ish years old, maybe 9, 10. And they're all dealing with the loss of the mother of the family. She died maybe a few months prior to this. And so they, of course, are grieving. The father is a therapist, yet he won't talk with his daughters about what happened. Clearly, he's having issues himself. And so they're not talking about it, and they're unable to kind of continue on with things. And that, of course, is going to play a role in The Boogeyman. So one day, I mentioned the father's a therapist. So one day, the stranger shows up at their door and he asks to do a session. And the father agrees, even though it's not typical of him. It's not his normal protocol. He agrees to start listening to him. And he mentions that everyone thinks he killed his family, but he didn't. It was this creature that did it. And he ends up leaving some entity behind, and that's what sets off the events of The Boogeyman. So this movie absolutely is kind of that stereotypical haunted house film. And I feel like what could have set it apart from some other films in this genre was the fact that they were grieving, and this boogeyman really played off the grief of the family. But while that's mentioned in here and maybe hinted at, they don't really go for it very hard. I feel like there were moments where they could have really played on, maybe she's grieving more now, she's crying harder now while she's watching this or that. Maybe have something more happen in that moment, which they don't really do that. But I feel like there was a lot of subtext here that they could have played with that they really didn't. And last week, after I reviewed Talk to Me, I feel like they did an excellent job of portraying a lot more of the subtext, the kind of the underlying emotions, kind of doing more with it there, making it feel a little bit more unique that The Boogeyman just unfortunately really doesn't do. Instead, this one relies on a lot of the horror cliches that you would come to expect from a film like this. Frankly, that's not a terrible thing. Like, I love horror movies, whether they're amazing or mediocre, and this one goes above mediocre for me. I think it does a nice job of establishing very genuinely creepy moments. This is absolutely a jump scare film. Honestly, though, there were maybe a couple that really got me. One of them in particular really got me. My wife actually came down at that moment and happened to be watching, and she flipped out when it happened. So, like, there was one really good jump scare in this, but other than that, there wasn't a ton of scare. So that was a little bit disappointing. You see a lot more of the titular boogeyman in this film than I ever would have guessed, but fortunately, it is a really cool creature design. I feel like Savage does a great job of kind of giving you hints of the creature at the beginning of the film, and then finally, as you get further into it, you get the big reveal, and there might be a little bit more to it than you expect with it, which I think is pretty cool. So I feel like the creature aspect of this is awesome. I wish there was more going on here. It is so very typical, like, these characters are making dumb decisions as they're going through this film, which is, I mean, it's fine. It's just tired at this point. And again, after watching Talk to Me last week, which it's not fair to compare these, they're very different movies, but they're both 2023 horror films. So, and I happen to watch them a few days apart. So comparing them, there's just so much more going on for the entirety of Talk to Me than there is with The Boogeyman. This is more of a big Hollywood horror film, for better or for worse. It's not terribly scary. There are a number of jump scares, but other than that, it's not the creepiest thing I've ever seen before. And I really feel like there were moments where they could have really cranked it up a bit. That opening sequence, for example, I feel like they really could have turned it up there and set a tone that Savage, for whatever reason, just decided not to do. It was it was jarring because of what happens, but not the way it was executed, if that makes sense. So, I mean, it's fine. It's just there could have been so much more done with this. And what really blows my mind is, though this does feel generic, Rob Savage directed one of the most unique and incredible horror films I've ever seen over the past few years with Host from 2020. This movie absolutely blew me away. It was so innovative, the way they handled this throughout COVID, how they handled the filming of this, and it was so creepy and super effective. I don't know where that went. It's like he traded in this kind of indie aspect for the big Hollywood horror film, and that's fine. It works. He did a good job. It's just like just could have been so much more than it was. All of that said, I do have to comment on the acting because I think it was really well done between all three of our main characters. They were great. You have Chris Messina in the father role, who I actually know from the movie Devil. He played, I believe he was the cop in Devil, which I don't love that movie, but it's kind of on the same level as Boogeyman. Like, it's a good film. I've watched it multiple times. I'll probably watch The Boogeyman again. So yeah, he's in that. He's really good in this. And then the little girl I thought was incredible. She's such a good actress for what she's asked to do here, which is a lot for such a young actress. And then Sophie Thatcher plays our main character. She is our teenage older daughter, and the whole movie runs through her. And she does an awesome job. I love the interactions between her and her father before really the creepy aspects start kicking in. There's just a moment where she's trying to talk to him about what she's feeling. And her dad's a therapist. I feel like they probably had these conversations her whole life. He always said to her, "You can come to me with anything. You can talk to me about anything." But then this event happens with the mother. I believe she was in some kind of car accident. And that just changed. I feel like it changed everything for them. And so she's trying to talk to her father, and he just stops her and says, "You're seeing the therapist tomorrow, right?" And she says, "Yeah, but I was trying to talk to you." And just the way she said it was just utter perfection. Like, what an amazing actress. And so I think she was just perfect for this role. She did such a great job. But like I said, her character does do some stupid things or some questionable things. It's like, really? That's how we're going to play this? But again, it's just, that's what you get with some of these horror films. And I can deal with that and move on and still enjoy myself like I did with The Boogeyman. So you have excellent acting across the board. I feel like the set design on this is great. Both the set design and the creature design, kind of where the creature is, the way they handled the houses at that point, I think looked awesome. Very, like meticulously well done, I would say. And you have a decent enough story. You have a genuinely cool creature character in this. It's just, this has all been done before. And arguably, some aspects have been done much better before. To go from something like Host to Boogeyman, it's just, you really felt the kind of constraints that the big budget Hollywood type film must have put on Savage. Because not only did he do Host, he did Dashcam as well, which I still have to see. But that one looks super unique as well based on the trailers. So I feel like Savage is capable of so much more than what the Boogeyman is. He does a good job with it, but it just could have been, it could have gone the next step. and unfortunately it just doesn't. So Boogeyman's a good movie. I recommend seeing it, but maybe find the digital code in this review and watch it that way first to make sure you love it. Otherwise though, I will give The Boogeyman from 2023 3 out of 5 stars. Let's talk a little bit about the disc itself. So we'll talk with the AV side of things first. Now, the audio I thought was great. This is a DTS HD Master Audio 5.1 track, and it sounded great. It really helped make the film feel a little bit creepier than it may have otherwise. It helps bring the audience into the film a little bit more. So I feel like the sound design on this was great, and the Blu-ray disc does a really nice job of handling everything that it's asked to handle. So I really like the sound on this disc. The picture quality, I'm not a 4K snob by any stretch of the imagination, but I have been watching a ton of 4K over the past few weeks here, just for like these different horror films. And I definitely noticed the drop in like detail that you get with 4K versus the Blu-ray disc here. This is a film that would have benefited from 4K, would have benefited from Dolby Vision so much, because not only are there really cool moments where light is used, like there's Christmas decorations at one point, and that's really cool, and that would have looked great with Dolby Vision. But more importantly than that, this film is dark. And there is detail that gets lost in the dark sequences without that 4K picture quality. So that was just a little bit disappointing. I feel like it could have been an even more effective film had the picture quality been a little bit better than it was. Now, mind you, it's not bad. It's going to be totally acceptable for anyone watching it. It's just a real big missed opportunity for, Disney Buena Vista here, because the 4K on this could have looked incredible. So that's my only complaint. Like, it's super dark, and the Dolby Vision or even just HDR in general really would have helped those dark sequences a little bit more than the Blu-ray does. So it's fine. It just could have been so much more. On the special feature front, it is pretty light. There's only about 18 minutes of special features here. There is an outtake reel, which is about 2 minutes long. It's fine. It just gives you some exactly what it sounds like, outtakes. There's not a ton in there. It's nothing super funny. It's just the actors acting goofy. And then there is a 16-minute making of documentary called Into the Darkness featurette. And again, much like I talked about with Talk to Me, this is kind of the exact same thing. It is the directors talking about how great the actors were, and the actors talking about how great it was to work with this director and how comfortable he made them feel, which is awesome. You absolutely always want to see that. It's just, it doesn't go much further than that. They do talk a little bit about the short story in it and how they were trying to adapt that for this kind of new screenplay that they were writing, but it doesn't go much deeper than surface level. So, I mean, it's fine. I would have loved to see something more here. I feel like Savage has a vast horror knowledge and could have just, added to kind of the history and why he did some of these choices a little bit more. Even if there was a director's commentary, which there isn't. And I know it's so super hypocritical because I never really do the commentary tracks very often. But with this one, I feel like it would have been interesting to hear about Savage's process behind the scenes more so than we get with the featurette. So it's cool that there's something there, but it's almost even worse than what was on Talk to Me because it's just so basic and by the numbers. I just wanted something a little bit more. I feel like I've said the words, it's good, but could have been so much better so many times throughout this review. And that is kind of the definition of this. It's a good movie, but it's one that'll probably be forgettable in a few weeks' time because it could have taken that extra step and been something so much better. I recommend it if you are a big horror fan like myself, but I don't know if spending $20 on the Blu-ray is really the route to go because there's not a lot more there that really makes it worthwhile. Now, if this is one that if it does get a 4K release down the road, I'll pick it up and I'll review the 4K to see if that picture quality is better and to see if the movie is better on a second viewing. But for my money, I feel like wait for a sale on this one unless you are a huge fan of the story of this or the actors or the director, whatever the case is. But it's a good movie, but it could have been so much better. So I'm going to give this Blu-ray release from Disney Buena Vista 3 out of 5 stars. All right, so those were my thoughts on The Boogeyman, but I want to hear from you guys. For me, this one absolutely falls below Talk to Me on the 2023 horror list, even behind Scream 6 as well. For me, the three that I can talk about because I watched them recently, Talk to Me is at the top, Scream 6 in the middle, and then The Boogeyman is at the bottom there. I'm sure I've seen others from 2023, but those are the three that I've seen recently, so I'll just rank those three for now. But I'd love to hear from you guys down below. below. What did you think of the Boogeyman? Am I underselling this one? Maybe I oversold Talk to Me last week. Am I underselling this one? Let me know what you think about it, and let me know if you found that digital code wherever it was in this video. Let me know if you found it down below so others aren't wasting their time. But hopefully you did, and hopefully you'll like the movie, maybe even a little bit more than I did. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it for today. If you enjoyed this one, go and hit that like button down below. That engagement really does help me out. And like I always say, I don't just talk movies, I talk all things media. Books, movies, video games, graphic novels. If it's media related, I'm interested in it. And if you are too, you might consider subscribing. All right, guys, so that's going to do it for today. I just want to say thank you all so much for watching. And I want to encourage you to consume some media today. I'll catch you next time.